So guys, today's video is about agreeing to disagree.
Why not? Yeah.
Here we go. So we've shot a couple of videos together about parenting, how we met, questions about our relationship in general with regard to like who's more clean, who's more fit, like those kinds of questions. If you haven't seen those videos, go watch those. But anyways, in today's video, we're going to talk about agreeing to disagree. Some of the things that we disagree on, but we've kind of just learned to live with, and they're kind of works in progress.
True.
So, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I'll go.
Yeah, perfect.
So, one of the biggest things that I personally think we disagree on is what time we go to bed.
Yes.
It's very simple,
Yes.
but there's always this like going back and forth of like what's not right, but what works for one side and the other. And so let's.
So I would argue there is a right and there is a wrong, but we'll get to that later.
Who's to say
Okay,
what's
go.
right? Menya wants or needs 8 hours of sleep every night.
I love sleep. Oh my god.
Every single night. He needs to have that 8 hours or he becomes a cranky little baby next day, and we don't want two babies in the house. So
shots fired.
So,
but it's right. I like if I don't sleep, I'm a mess. So yes.
And also, he wants to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning.
Yes, every weekday morning.
Yeah, weekday morning to be productive and feel on top of it and feel amazing and all of those things.
Yeah.
So naturally, his bedtime would be 10 p.m.
Just simple mathematics. I'm gonna wake up at 6. I need to go to bed at 10 in order to get 8 hours. So if it's 10:30, it becomes 7:30. It's 11, it becomes 7, etc. Which leads to the dilemma.
So my question is, who actually goes to bed at 10 p.m. these days?
This is
Hands?
not.
Yeah.
It, yes.
Maybe. I mean, not against it. But
Can I jump in for a moment?
Sure.
Is it okay, honestly?
Yeah.
Okay, so the crux of the argument is that nobody goes to bed at 10. That's one. I shouldn't even do that. That's grossly biased, but it's true. Whatever that is. Nobody goes to bed at 10 is one part of the argument. And the second part of the argument is that she's more productive in the evening than she is, for example, early in the morning.
Yes.
Which I think is fair. Like, that's totally fair. Some people actually just, are night owls. They do better in the evening. That part I get. I've been pushing for this 6:30 wake up since like day one, and from day one she's been like, I want to Netflix and whatever at night, which that's not how she talks, but that's fair because I like to do that stuff too. I just want to do it before 10 or 10:30 or 11, or midnight, so we can get like a reasonable amount of sleep, so we can wake up and be productive. So that's actually a great point. I think it's one of our biggest points of tension is when we go to bed. And to be honest, in her defense, it's getting a lot better. I think she's recognizing that, waking up at 6 every day and like she makes the kids breakfast and I'm able to get up and like do errands and then like get to work quickly and early. We both like that. We both really appreciate that. But basically, I think I end up valuing sleep just straight up more than you do, right?
It's not that I don't value sleep. I've learned over time to adapt to not having enough sleep. Meaning, I've been parenting for the past 12, maybe more years. And as I go through that process, like nothing goes as planned. And so when I feel like if I have a strict deadline of 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And in the case that I don't accomplish all the things that I need to do before that, I feel pretty crappy. And so I'm left with like, I didn't get those things. I didn't get to like tick the boxes, and then I'll just have to go to bed feeling pretty bad. And the next morning I'm like, I still have all of this to complete on day 2.
Fair.
But so for me, what works really well for me is that put the kids to bed at 9 p.m. and then I have like the unlimited luxury of time in the evening to finish all the tasks and like do yoga and Pilates and like create, because that's what I like to do.
Fair.
Without being bothered. And then I feel awesome whether it's like 11, 12, 2 a.m.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. So basically, I think her standpoint is that she'd rather stay up later finishing the tasks she wants to finish that day than shelving them to the next day and then the next day. I'm the opposite. The later it gets into the day, the less productive I become. So by the time it's like 10 p.m., I like can't even really think anymore. So she like always wants to make decisions at night. She's like, when we're gonna book our hotel, and I'm like, baby, it's like 10:30 p.m.
You've been
like
lagging behind for like the past 2 weeks.
I'm like, can we just do it in the morning or something? So then, anyways, so my preference is wake up early and go that route. So again, there isn't really a right or wrong, but that's definitely an area of tension that just like hasn't been resolved, and I don't know that it'll ever fully get resolved. But best case scenario, I just want to maximize sleep, because with good sleep, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons. I've shot videos on why sleep is so important, you know, like physiologically, mentally.
This is the coach part of it.
Yeah, there's so many benefits of sleeping well that I'm just such a huge advocate. In fact, I'm reading Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep right now. I'm audiobooking it.
Just more reason.
Just more reason to prioritize sleep, but that's a separate story. It'll just be more kind of like weapons in my arsenal for my argument.
Exactly. That's how I view his reading choice.
So that's one. My side?
Sure.
So one area of tension that we have, which I think is very much a result of her being ethnically Japanese and me being essentially American, is that, and I keep it simple, I'm an extremely clear communicator with her, with the kids, with my parents, my friends, whoever it is. I'm a very clear communicator. I really believe in just maximizing clarity, so there's like less ambiguity, less confusion, and frankly less room for error, because like this is what we said, this is what's going to happen, da 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 da. She's just not. And that's not a bad thing, it's just different. She's much more, what's the word? What's a good word to describe it?
Flexible?
Loving? Yeah.
Open
Nurturing.
To open to new ideas.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah.
Right?
So, as a result of that, what often happens is that I want everything to be explicit. So as an example, if she knows that she wants me to do something, let's say on a regular basis, if she just tells me like, baby, I'd love it if you do this thing on a regular basis, it'll like go into my little man brain, like do this thing on a regular basis, and then I will do the thing on a regular basis, and it'll just happen forever. But if she doesn't tell me what that is explicitly with words, then I'm left to kind of guess what it is she wants from me, which I'm sure so many other guys out there, probably, and some women, but like tons of guys out there can relate to. She essentially wants me to basically like read her mind, or as they say in Japanese, kukiyomu. Like she wants me to read the air. It means like to read what's happening in the situation and then know what to do.
But I'm like sending out all the vibes. I'm like, you should
She's
probably
sending
be
out all
able
those
to feel
female
them
vibes.
even now.
Baby,
Even now.
So whatever that is, she's sending those out all the time, and obviously, like again, I just like don't pick up on any of them. Both not being Japanese, but also just, and this is hugely gendered, but being a guy, I feel like this is a very gendered issue. But I feel like we also live in a time where like things can't be gendered anymore because that whole topic. So I won't go down that path. But in my experience, I know that at least a lot of the guys I talk to, especially like in the men's group, like it's a pretty common thing for essentially oftentimes men to have a certain point of view and women to have a different one. But again, that's a complicated issue. I really don't want to go down that path. So anyways, with us, that ends up being the case, is I'm super clear, she's not necessarily as clear. So there's a book called The Culture Map, and in that book they talk about basically, I think, two kinds of communication. I haven't read the book yet. I've just looked up this terminology. I think one's called low context communication, essentially, and one's called high context communication. And so I come from a low context culture, which is where communication is direct and explicit, so there isn't room for ambiguity or vagueness. She comes from the exact opposite culture. Japanese is notoriously vague and kind of ambiguous by nature of the language and also the culture. So that's really, I think, actually what our probably single greatest struggle is, kind of bridging that gap between me trying to be really direct and explicit, and she's like, you're relatively you're relatively explicit, but there are certain things that you are completely not. I think it's more like, not so much intimate, but it's more the subtle things. It's not like groceries and stuff. Like, we're pretty explicit about that, but it's things that are like, it's like if she's stressed, and like the thing that I'm supposed to do if she's stressed, or she's like cooking and Jasmine's running around and she wants me to help, but she doesn't necessarily say she wants me to help, or she'll say like, baby, she'll say something, but it's not direct, and then I don't interpret it right, and then I don't do what I'm supposed to do because it wasn't like explicit. Those kinds of things. So we have lots of moments that revolve around my low context communication and her high context communication. I haven't read the book yet, but I've heard great things about it. Again, it's called The Culture Map if you guys are interested in reading. But that's what I think is probably our greatest issue. Yeah, which is not so bad. Other than that, I think most things are actually...
I mean, I think you're, like, on the very edge of the spectrum. Like, you're
I'm, like, super low context.
Low context.
Meaning, like, very explicit, very direct, very clear,
like,
with everything.
We have conversations about, let's say, like, parenting. Probably start at like 12 and at like 3.
Yeah. They get deep.
They get really deep.
I just love understanding things.
No, that's great, but I don't have 3 hours to spare to talk about that during the day, and so sometimes I'm like, I just wish that you could just like, I don't know, not read the air, but just sort of like pick up on things sometimes.
Nah, I understand that. That's pretty fair. I'm extremely thorough, and
which I love.
I explore every angle, option, possibility, everything to an exhaustive detail.
It's pretty intense, guys.
I mean, I love it. Like, I love the learning process, and through communication, I find that, like, I think in the same way that writing, in many ways, is the art of discovery and exploration and creativity, imagination. I think good conversation can be the same way. So I really like having in-depth conversations where we really dive deep and explore concepts and institutions and stuff like that. And she like doesn't want that. She's like, can we just get like, which is interesting because I tend to be the more direct one. She's not, but when we have long conversations, she's the one who's like, can we just get to the point? And I'm the one who wants to like dive into all the...
Let me dig into all the 10
That's actually really interesting. That's so interesting that I end up being the one who does that. Yeah. Really interesting. So I guess on your side, it's sleep time, wake time. On my side, it's kind of low context, high context.
Yes.
And then there's one other thing I want to bring up because I think it's actually just kind of funny. She used to be a huge snoozer. I hate the snooze button on anything. I just think it's completely unnecessary. But and I shared this feeling with her. There are obviously 2 camps. You either snooze or you don't snooze. You guys should let us know what camp you're on. I don't snooze at all. I stopped snoozing when I was like maybe in high school. I must have gone late to school one day and I was just like never again, and snoozing just stopped that day. So I'm hardcore in the not snooze side. I think it's just a big waste of time, and namely, especially as someone who values sleep, I think there's no point in waking up and then trying to catch 5 to 7 to 9 to maybe 10 minutes more of sleep. Long story short, we both don't snooze now, and that's amazing. That's a win. So this is an example of something that I'm bringing this up because we were at complete odds when it comes to snooze or not to snooze. And now there is no snoozing, and I'm crazy happy about it, and I feel like it works, right? What do you think?
Yeah.
Because I was on team not snooze, and now we don't snooze. So I wonder, like,
unless you don't get your 8 hours, and then you want to be able to.
But that's not snoozing. That's just like getting more sleep.
That's just working. I think for me it's a little different, but I think it's great that we both wake up pretty early and are able to accomplish all the tasks that we have.
Yeah. Like,
it's a lot having 3 kids and like running the house and also like working, having your own company.
Yeah.
So good on us for waking up.
Yeah. So what do you guys get into? Is this a Japanese American thing, or does this happen in other kind of cultures? I'm wondering actually, is the low context, high context thing quite common?
Guys, do you want your husband to like pick up on things, to like know when you want a certain thing without actually saying the thing like super directly?
And is this a gendered thing, or is this just an us thing? I really want to know, like, is that a gendered thing? Do women have
to like be more vocal? Like, just let us know. What do you guys think?
And if you guys haven't already, please remember to like this video, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video, which will be next week on Tuesday. Later!